Hi, Archie.
Hi.
How does the world look upside down?
I don't know.
I'm going to share my screen with you,
Okay.
and we are going to see how Jack and Annie are doing. So we saw that the Moon Man had given a map of stars to Jack and Annie. And so they think it's a space map. And then they had thought, map starts with M. Now, what's interesting is that Jack said this must be the fourth M thing.
It's my.
What would be better to say than must be?
Might be or could be.
That's right, because must be, if you say something must be, then you are saying it definitely is. I am 100% sure. I'm absolutely right. There's no possibility that I'm wrong or that it could be something else. But they don't really know for sure. And so a safer thing to say would be, it might be, or it could be. And that way, if they're wrong, no one can tell them that they were lying or even tell them that they're wrong, because they never would have said must be. They would have said might be or could be. So all they're saying is there is the possibility that the space map is the fourth M thing. And they wanted to ask him what it means, but remember, the Moon Man was flying over the mountains. He had left, so they couldn't ask him. And then we are going to go ahead and start chapter 8, which is one star to another. Now, remember, when we have a word in italics, we're going to stretch it apart like a rubber band and say it more slowly.
Hi.
Yeah. Who was that guy? Said Jack. What does his map mean? I don't know, said Annie, but let's see if it works. Jack took a deep breath. Yeah, we'd better hurry back. I think I'm running out of air. It feels harder to breathe. Now, running, we think of as something that we do when we are...
Not that running is running out of.
That's right. This is not running like running to school or running around the track or running around the soccer field. Running out of air.
Or running around the trash can.
Running out of air is when, well, we right here in our room, we cannot run out of air. The room is full of air because we are on planet Earth. We're not down under the water and we're not up on the moon. So we have plenty of air to breathe. But if you are on, go ahead.
Nothing.
But if you're under the water or if you're on the moon and you need air to breathe, you will put that tank of air on your back that is full of the oxygen that we need to breathe in the air. And remember, their air tank only had 2 hours of oxygen in it. And maybe they have been on the moon for more than 2 hours outside of the moon base. He says it feels harder to breathe. For me too, said Annie. So Jack says, go slow. Don't breathe too much, said Jack. He and Annie took long floating steps toward the moon base. Jack held his breath as if he were underwater. By the time they got to the white dome, he was ready to burst. Because if you're holding your breath, you're like, how long do you think I can hold my breath for before I need to go? Right? It can be, people can't hold their breath for very long. So let's see. Annie pushed a button beside the huge door. Remember, they have to go through the airlock. It slid open. They hurried into the airlock. The door closed behind them and the door to the hallway opened. Because remember, with a airlock, there's 2 doors. So they come into the first door and then it closes and then they're in this little space and then they open this door and they go through and then that door closes. Jack opened the visor of his helmet. That's the part covering his face. He took a long, deep breath and let it out. Ah, let's get out of these suits, said Annie. Good idea. Jack was dying to free his arms and legs. That word dying just means he was anxious to. He was really excited to do that as soon as possible. As they moved clumsily, that means not very well, into the spacesuit storeroom, Jack felt heavy again. That's about the gravity changing. He and Annie unlocked each other's helmets, gloves, and boots and pulled everything off. Then they stepped out of their bulky suits. Whew, Jack said. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. It was great to be free, even if he no longer felt as light as a feather. And there's that simile. We're comparing how much a feather weighs. It doesn't weigh very much, it's very light, to how he had felt when he was on the moon and able to take a step and kind of, they use the word bounding. It meant that he would like take a step and he'd go way up like a rabbit when he was out on the moon. So he had felt very light when he was outside the airlock on the surface of the moon. Hurry, Peanut's waiting, said Annie. She led the way down the steps to the bright landing chamber. Yay, she said softly. Jack was relieved. Relieved means, phew, I'm so glad that worked out the way I hoped it would. He was relieved to see the treehouse still there. Soon they would be heading home. He couldn't wait. Jack and Annie crawled through the treehouse window. We're back, Peanut, said Annie. Squeak. Peanut ran to the letter M. We missed you, said Annie. She patted the mouse's head. We met a moon man. Sorry, Peanut, but you have to move, said Jack. We have to put the map on the M. Annie gently lifted the mouse off the M. Jack tore the star map out of his notebook. He placed it on the M next to the mammoth bone, the mango, and the moonstone. He sighed, then sat back on his heels. Hand me the Pennsylvania book, he said. They needed the Pennsylvania book to get back home because they are from Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. There was silence. Jack turned and looked at Annie. It's not working, Jack, she said. The book's not here. What? Was the map the wrong thing? They looked around the treehouse. It's definitely not here, said Annie. Oh, no. Jack's heart sank. Our heart is not something that can sink in the water like a boat.
Yes.
Not something that floats. What do you think it means when we say our Jack's heart sank?
It's like he's sad.
Right. That's right. It talks about how we often use in English the heart to tell how we're feeling. And that if we're feeling very hopeful and excited and happy, we have a lot of hope, then our feeling is up here. And then if our heart sinks, sink means go down, blah, 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 blah. And then we lose that hope and we feel disappointed or sad. He picked up the star map and stared at it. So you can see here is the M. It's kind of upside down for us, but it's right like this. So it looks like a W to us, but if we turned it around like you being upside down, it should look like an M. Squeak, squeak. Peanut jumped out of Annie's arms and scurried, that means hurried, back to the letter M. I've got an idea, said Jack. He reached into his pack and took out his pencil. What are you doing? Said Annie. You know how you draw a constellation? Do you remember that word constellation? We looked at pictures of constellation in an earlier video. It's when you look up at the sky at night and you see stars, and if you connect the dots between some stars, it makes it into a picture. And that picture is called a constellation. You connect all the stars. What happens if we try that? He drew a line from one star to another. He kept drawing until all the stars were connected. Let me see, said Annie. Jack held the paper out so they could both study it. It looks like a mouse, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. So here's the body of the mouse and the tail and the head. Let's see, we did this before. Here's the body and the head and the ears and the tail. So here where they're looking, they've got their other things, the other three things that begin with the letter M that they found in books 5, 6, and 7. Okay. Is there such a thing as a mouse constellation? Said Annie. I don't think so, said Jack. Squeak. Annie and Jack looked at Peanut. She was standing on the M. Oh, wow, Jack, Annie whispered. I think I know what the fourth thing is. Jack grinned. Me too, he said. It's a dun 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 dun. Want to tell us, Archie?
Mouse.
A mouse, they said together. Squeak, squeak. Maybe the spell is, want to say it with me? Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse, said Annie. Jack touched each M thing in turn as he whispered, ready? Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse. Let's say it over and over and see what happens, said Annie. Together, they chanted, moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse. Is your audio okay, Archie?
Yes.
Do you want to try reading it yourself?
Yes. Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse. Moonstone, mango, mammoth bone, mouse.
That's right. Now you have read these. Do you remember where they got the moonstone?
They got from the ninja master.
Okay. How about the mango?
The monkey.
Okay. How about the mammoth bone?
The animal master.
Aha. Okay. Suddenly, a bright light filled the treehouse. The light got brighter and brighter and brighter. The brightness was blinding and whirling. Whirling is going around in circles. The air spun. Spun means spinning, also going around in circles. The air spun with brightness. Then everything was clear. It reminds me of the treehouse spinning at the middle in the beginning of the story, and then everything was silent. Well, here everything was clear. Peanut the mouse was gone, and Morgan Le Fay stood before Jack and Annie. What does that mean?
That means Peanut the mouse is Morgan Le Fay.
Aha. So Peanut the mouse, all of this time, was Peanut with Jack and Annie in books 5, 6, and 7?
Yes.
And they never knew that the mouse was Morgan Le Fay in books 5, 6, and 7, not until right now at the end of book 8.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, let's look. Oh, chapter 9 is called Morgan. Let's see what she says. Thank you, Morgan said softly. You have freed me from the magician's spell. A magician is someone who can do magic. So do you think a magician is real or pretend?
Real.
Well, you are correct that there are some people that have a job being a magician. But here's my question. Do you think that a real magician does real magic or knows how to make things look like it's magic?
Let things look like it's magic.
That's what I think, but that's my opinion. Jack just stared at her. You were Peanut? Annie said. Morgan nodded and smiled. Really? You were with us all the time? Said Jack. On all our missions? Morgan nodded again. Why did we have to go on this mission to find a mouse? Said Jack. If you were always with us? That's a good question. I wonder what she's going to say. She says, to break the spell, we had to be on the moon, said Morgan. You could have broken the spell the minute we arrived. Oh, that's what you were trying to say, said Annie. We didn't have to leave the moon base at all. Morgan nodded, smiling. But the moon man came along to help us, said Annie. He drew a constellation of a mouse. Is he a friend of yours? Morgan shrugged like this. Let's just say we had a little talk. Stopped by the moon base while you were out. That's interesting. The same way you had a talk with the ninja master, right? Said Jack. And the monkey and the sorcerer? Morgan nodded. I always squeaked to the ones who helped you. Oh, very interesting. There she is. Wow, she is very tall. Let's see how the illustrator drew her picture. You know, this cape almost looks like feathers of a bird.
Yes, that is
An eagle?
They made Morgan at the book fair. The book fair marked the book fair. Morgan is parrot.
Can you put that right in front of your face so that we can see it more clearly, because you have your background on blurry. So it has to be right where your face is. All right, wait, down a little bit. Okay, oops, I think we just got a glimpse of her. Okay, so that's book 4, right?
Yes.
If you want to show us that picture again and you turn your background blurriness off, then it will be easier to see. You let me know.
Off.
So Jack says, but how did they understand you? Mouse, said Jack. That's also a good question. Morgan smiled again. Certain wise ones understand the language of little creatures, she said. A creature is anything that's living. Could be a person or an animal. But little creatures are usually talking about little animals, like mouse, like a mouse or a squirrel or a chipmunk. I bet it was you who turned the pages of the books, said Annie, to show us where to go next. Morgan nodded. But who turned you into a mouse, said Annie. Morgan frowned. A certain person who likes to play tricks on me, she said. His name is Merlin. Merlin, said Jack, the greatest magician who ever lived? Yes, I see your hand up. Do you want to show us the picture from book 4? I'm going to stop my sharing so we can see it here. Nice. So this is from book 4. There you go. Ah, I see her. Yeah. And I see the bird. Can you show us the front cover of the book?
Okay.
Of book 4? Can you show us what the front looks like? Oh, Magic Treehouse number 4, Pirates Past Noon. Very interesting. That looks like a good one. Okay, let me bring up the end of chapter 9 again. So you have a good memory for having met Morgan Le Fay. So they met her in book 4, and then the mystery with her took place in books 5, 6, 7, and 8. Morgan sniffed. That's kind of like, he's not that great, she said. He doesn't even know I have two brave friends who help me. Who are those 2 brave friends? They must be Archie and Miss Camp, right?
Yes.
Us, said Annie shyly. Morgan nodded, and I thank you both with all my heart. You're welcome, said Jack and Annie. Morgan handed Annie the Pennsylvania book. Are you ready to go home now? She asked. Yes, said Jack and Annie. Annie pointed to a picture of the Frog Creek woods. I wish we could go there, she said. Would you like to read this with me?
The treehouse started.
I'm going to let you read it, Archie, by yourself. Okay, go ahead.
The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still, but only for a moment.
Only for a moment. Let's look at the very beginning of chapter 10, and then we're going to put our star for today. This is called Earth Life. The midnight woods woke up. A breeze rustled the leaves. A breeze rustled the leaves. A breeze is the wind, a little wind, and the leaves are in a tree. So if it gets a little windy, then you'll hear the leaves in the tree making some noise as they blow around. An owl hooted. The sounds were soft, but very alive. They noticed these sounds now because when they were on the moon, out on the surface of the moon, I think they noticed how it was so quiet because there was no wind and there wasn't any plants living. There were no creatures or plants living on the surface of the moon. Jack opened his eyes. He pushed his glasses into place. He smiled. Morgan was still with them. He could see her in the moonlight. Her long white hair was shining. Morgan, can you and the treehouse stay here, said Annie, in Frog Creek? And that is where we're going to make our star. What color would you like the star to be?
I don't know. Blue, all blue.
Dark blue or turquoise blue?
Sky blue.
How about this one?
Oh, dark blue.
This one? The whole
Yes,
thing?
but this blue too.
Is this what you want?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna hit save. And I will hit stop share. so that I can say,
So long, Chitter Chip.
bye, Archie.